Reinvention can feel lonely after 50. Friends fall away, family may disconnect. You've been through a breakup or divorce, and you find yourself solo on your journey, sometimes feeling sad, sometimes feeling liberated, sometimes feeling happy, then back to sad. It can be a roller coaster. And what you do know is that your life is now a journey of uncertainty because maybe certain things that you thought you would accomplish, or maybe you felt that you'd be at a certain place by now, has not happened. And maybe you're filled with disappointment. If this is you, know that you're not alone. And this could be your biggest blessing as you move forward and navigate your second chapter. 2 years ago, I ended a toxic relationship. I lost my job, and then I decided that I was going to relocate back to the US from living abroad. I didn't expect it to be the most healing journey of my life so far. And I've had a lot of spiritual growth spurts throughout my life, but this one was definitely more magnified. One of the things that I've learned that can feel lonely is learning how to set boundaries. Because as I've learned and how to set boundaries, meaning being able to say no to certain people when you don't want to do certain things, or just not people pleasing anymore, saying yes just because you wanna go with the flow and you don't wanna create any friction or animosity with other people. Or maybe setting boundaries might mean for you that you're just respecting yourself more and what your needs are, and not feeling the peer pressure to be in certain places or do certain things if it's not in alignment with who you are. So the more you start to embody the identity of a person that is self-respecting and sets boundaries, you may feel lonely doing it because not other people may be on the same page as you are. They may get offended by the fact that maybe you're not doing the same things they are, or you're speaking out to take a stand for yourself more than before. These types of identity shifts can really shine a light on other people. If they're uncomfortable with what you are mirroring to them, then it may cause you to feel alone in what you're going through, or even lonely at times. So, what I've learned to do in those instances is to celebrate my wins, to just really know that even though I may feel more in solitude, it may be because I need to learn to embrace that solitude more. I've always believed that there's growth in discomfort, and sometimes sitting in our own loneliness or even solitude, because when we think of loneliness, we think of it as a negative thing. And it can be when you're alone, when you're solo. But it can also be a sacred solitude. It could be a really an opportunity to listen to the goings on of yourself and to also connect with God, the God that lives within you. The second thing that I've done that has caused me to feel lonely at times, but also whenever possible, choosing to see it as sacred solitude, is doing deep shadow work. And I'm going to be looking at my notes from time to time. A lot of people know shadow work to be inner child healing. And that is something that I hadn't done for almost all my life. And most of that shadow work has come in the last 2 years, just really digging deep to understand patterns, unhealthy patterns that I've had in my life that I've repeated over and over, from money issues to relationship issues to family issues. I've realized that a lot of my patterns that weren't healed, in other words, there was a lot of repressed emotion or stress that I hadn't processed that was preventing me from living the life of fulfillment that I really wanted for myself. I was subconsciously attracting certain outcomes, certain relationships, certain environments that I'd find myself in. And so the more I examined this and more importantly, allowed myself to feel some of those repressed emotions as they would come up, I allowed those stuck feelings to move out of me, transcend, and as a result, made me feel more at peace. And that has been a tremendous treasure in my life. I know that I'm not done, but I feel like I've made so much progress now. And for the most part, I'm just looking forward to moving forward without having to wallow in those past pains as much as I used to, or to be stuck in the patterns that I would constantly repeat without knowing why I was doing it. The other thing that has been lonely, but this was completely intentional. And again, I'm saying lonely loosely because more often than not, it's been sacred solitude, is that I've spent a lot of time learning to sit still, at least in the mornings in my sacred time, to meditate, to journal, to self reflect, and really understand what's going on with me, paying attention to maybe sensations that I have in my body or memories that are coming up or emotions that all of a sudden are surfacing, but not just feeling the emotion, but really understanding the root cause of what was causing those emotions. So I guess you could say just getting deep into mindfulness. I feel like I have tapped into a new interest into the quantum field and wanting to learn more and feel more of what is possible in the quantum field, what we don't see. The lives that we're living right now is a manifestation of what we thought, what we felt, what we co created in our lives. And if we can co create our current reality, we can co create whatever reality we want to see moving forward, as long as we're aware that we are doing this, that we're constantly manifesting, we're constantly tapping into the quantum field, some of us more than others. It has a lot to do with being in the flow of the energy that's outside of us and within us. And the more I learn about it, the more I want to tap into that energy. I think it's a very powerful state to be in. As I'm learning these techniques, I find myself very alone because there's no one I can really discuss them with except for my online partners in a program that I'm in that incorporates some of this philosophy and techniques. And so when you're learning this knowledge, these techniques and what many would call esoteric language, you can sometimes feel like you're completely alone and maybe even a bit nuts because no one else seems to be talking about it. I really believe that it's a beautiful state, a beautiful thing to embrace, learning how to be the God energy, how to embrace God within ourselves and create our own heaven on earth as much as we can. And it seems like it's very counterintuitive right now because we're living in a time with extraordinary chaos and a lot of evil has been revealed in the collective, in the government, and in various industries. But at the same time, we as individuals and as a collective, I believe, are able to really help co create a beautiful new earth with God energy, light energy, a lot of love. And so I believe that what's happening now is a crumbling down, as many spiritual mentors have mentioned, a crumbling down of the old ways in order to make room for the new. The other thing that I want to point out is this time alone has really enabled me to move out of being in constant pain. Some people say you can be stuck in analysis paralysis or be stuck in emotions that maybe are not productive. And I think in the last 4 years, this growth spurt of just really doing all this inner work is also allowing me to give myself a lot of compassion through it all, to really embrace self love in the sense that I am integrating and loving all of the parts of myself, the parts that I was ashamed of, that maybe I was disappointed in, the parts that didn't feel understood, that were scared, that were insecure, and also the parts that are confident in so much that I've been able to do, proud of myself for what I've overcome, more in love with the whole me versus just honoring the parts that are the good girl, the one that accomplished or achieved certain things. No, I have been learning to really embrace all of me, the dark side, the good side, the things that I wish I could have done differently because now I see things more clearly. I've learned from it all and I want to continue to learn from it all. I also learned to stop seeking validation and love from the external, knowing that I have it all inside and with my relationship with God. And the other point on that note about God is that I personally have loved integrating God, Jesus Christ into my life and into my being without feeling like I need to succumb to the peer pressure of having to go to a church or some kind of organized religion. I feel like my relationship with God, my embodiment of Christ consciousness is very personal to me. And I try to do acts of kindness on a daily basis, not just for myself, but for others. I think that is love in action. And I don't necessarily need to go to a church or any brick and mortar place to prove myself. I don't knock anyone for doing it because I think a lot of people get community out of going to church, which I think is a beautiful thing. And I am not saying I won't ever do that. Maybe I will seek it out at some point. But I also think that having your own relationship with God is just as valid. And it doesn't mean that you are less loved by God or less lovable in general because you're not going to a church. Unfortunately, I feel that a lot of people impose those beliefs on others that choose to not go to church. So that's why I felt it was important to bring it up, which can make a person feel even more lonely if that's the case. And the whole point of being spiritual and a loving citizen is to not exclude others, regardless of the situation, to always make them feel included and loved. I think what I'm going to end with is if you feel that you're over 50 and you're alone, know that you're not alone and know that it's okay. You're going to get through this and to view a lot of this time alone as sacred solitude. There's so much power and healing and grace and self love that can come from spending time alone. But if for some reason it's just too lonely for you, find someone that you can reach out to be able to talk things through. Seek out therapy, family, friends, anyone where you think that you will feel safe in talking about your journey. I think it's really important to seek out help. Mental health is really important, and it's so important to feel understood and heard through really difficult times in our lives. I certainly had moments where I did reach out to friends, family, had therapy sessions. I sought out other modalities as well at various times in my life and even in the last 4 years. So I am definitely a person that advocates for getting the help you need when you need it, while at the same time recognizing that allowing yourself some solitude can be extremely beneficial and sacred. But you'll find the right balance for you. Everybody is different. The important thing is that you're embracing the journey and that you are learning to thrive despite some of the challenges that you are coming up against. Because life is not over, it's just getting started. Think of all the wisdom you've built up until now. Think of all of the things that you've already overcome. If you really stop to think about it and maybe even take some time to journal about it, it's probably going to astound you. And with that said, I'm sending you so much love. If you care to comment about something that made you feel really good in your own solitude, whether it's a technique or someone you reached out to or some activity that you like to embrace when you're in a state of solitude, please comment in the section below. And I'll talk to you soon.